Do you believe in generalizations about things like the male ego, Miss Davis? I know you've had some things to say about it in the past.
Well, I have terrible things to say, but generalizations aren't good, really.
Yeah.
You know, they really aren't good.
In general, they're not.
In general, they're not. We all fall into the trap, don't we?
Yeah, it's very easy to
what
split.
women are like and what men are like, but of course there are just so very many exceptions, you know, that one shouldn't. And yet there's no other way of expressing one's feelings about certain things except getting into some generalizations.
Mm-hmm. I wondered about, when we talk about Bogart, I also thought about Errol Flynn, because he was one of those guys I would think would be in that category of somebody would be fun to have around when you were out in Hollywood in that business.
Well, he was to many people. He wasn't fun with me.
Oh, well,
no,
let me pick another one.
in the way you mean.
Yeah.
No, he's a marvelously fun-loving person. I think probably the most beautiful-looking person on the screen.
Really?
Oh, that we've ever had. The most beautiful-looking man.
More than
no
John
question
Barrymore?
About it. Well, John Barrymore Errol was just, looked a little like Barrymore, actually, side two, interesting enough. But he was just beautiful, Errol. He himself openly said, I don't know anything about acting. Mm-hmm. And I admire his honesty, because he's absolutely right. But he was just marvelous on the screen, and it's just so tragic that life worked out the way it did for him, you know?
Yeah.
Because he should have been around a long, long time encouraging all of us, I think, to look at beautiful men.
Do you, well, there are other things to look at for me. We're back to that subject again. Speaking of that, do you think that psychoanalysis can hurt an actor?
Oh, well. I have to tell you, I've always believed that because I never would do it.
I wondered.
Because I felt that they cured. I think I went into that a little, didn't I?
In the book, yeah.
Because I think if they cure, if possible, all the peculiarities of a performer, I think something would go.
That's what I know.
I think
a lot of
something
them
would
are
really
afraid
and
of.
truly go, and I would have been afraid of it.
For that reason.
For that reason.
Maybe we can get Dr. Miller in on this. I'm sure he has a theory on it when he comes out, Jonathan Miller. But I've wondered about that. I know other people who have said that, and I wanted to know whether you felt that they were a little afraid that the compulsion to do whatever it is they do that drives them to succeed would go, along with the symptoms of whatever their
Well, I was afraid of it.
neurosis
yes.
was.
I was
Comedians are
afraid.
worried about that too.
Comedians, too, are very worried about
Afraid
that.
they'll
They feel
lose all their humor.
that they, whatever drove them
Yes,
to
if we
end
found out about ourselves,
Yeah.
we couldn't have any humor at all, could
That's
we?
right.
That's why we don't have a couch here.
Unless you want me to act as a couch.
Well, sir, that's the best offer of the new year.
I hope I'm as lucky with the reaction all year long.
That makes me think of that scene in your book where you, the first day, you spent almost entirely on a couch. You described
With all
this
the leading
screen.
men.
How did they get away with that?
Well, I was under contract, and they thought I was, you know, just a silly-looking little thing, you know, from Boston or somewhere. And they didn't know what to do with me. So in order to make me earn my salary, I was sent to a soundstage and put flat on a couch, and 15 men got on top of me, one after the other, you know? Mm-hmm. And to say at that point that I was a very, very shy person, just putting it mildly.
Were you shy even after the
I was
eighth one?
horrified. I was just absolutely in a state of shock. I also felt a little cheap. I have to tell you, I felt a little cheap. I must say, yes.
Yeah. I hope no one misunderstands the degree to which you meant this.
No, it's just he just was making love to. It was the scene.
That's what I was afraid of.
No, audience.
No, yes.
It was the scene to test the actor, not me. And they used test people to test the actor. And I was just the thing they used to do their test.
Oh, don't try to get out of this, Betty. Miss Davis.
You know, they didn't. They're all dressed in some marvelous period thing with guns, swords that clanked. And it was all very uncomfortable.
It's amazing that you got through that. You were one of the people who might have played Scarlett O'Hara. This was a fact that had escaped me.
Well,
what's the story on that?
Well, Warner actually optioned the book for me. And it was the time that things were very rough, and I wasn't getting any good scripts or good directors, and I knew that if I continued this way any longer, there would be no career of any importance. And so I went to see him before I left the studio forever. And he said, please don't go. I've optioned a marvelous book called Gone with the Wind. Oh, I said, I'll bet it's a peachy book. And left the office. And I came back from England a year later. You can imagine what I found out about Gone with the Wind. Then Errol and I were asked to play it by Selznick, interestingly enough.
Oh, that would have been...
Well, Errol would have not, no, I wouldn't have.
No, that
Errol was
sounds too
not Rhett
promising.
Butler at all.
No.
No.
Charming, but not Rhett Butler.
Charming, but not Rhett Butler, right.
Yeah.
So that's just sort of the history of it.
May I say that you're the best of the people who didn't play Scarlett O'Hara?
Thank you.
I think so.
Thank you very much.
You know,
I sort of did a little, though, in Jezebel.
You made up for it in another film?
Before, it came out before Gone with the Wind. And it was kind of the same kind of woman,
That was your big movie at that time.
That was my first one that really started everything going. Mr. Selznick wasn't a bit happy about that.
And you hated yourself in your first film.
I still do.
Oh, you do?
No, I hate to see myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I can look at it 10 years later and say, there was some reason why she had a career, but I never understood it in the beginning at all. I never thought I really would, because having a career includes not only that you can act, but that the people go and see you, because people make careers. No studio manager, no studio head can make you a star. The audiences made me a star, and that was the great miracle to me, because I didn't think it would.
Do you feel that sense of obligation to the ones that mob your car and say, we made you, you can stop and give us an
I've always
autograph?
taken this very seriously.
Have you?
I think it's...
Katharine Hepburn once yelled, back the hell you are, when someone yelled, we made you.
Well, I think the public definitely does. And I think your relations with the public are violently important.
Yeah.
I always have thought so, particularly on the screen. And I think it can be an honest relationship. I don't think you have to sort of do an act every time somebody's nice to you. But if you are grateful, and I always have been grateful.
Yeah. We have only time here to roast a parrot and slip it into Joan Crawford's lunch, so do you... If we're not careful, I'll be caught on the phone, won't we? I'm going to introduce Dr. Miller now, and I can't have Bette Davis here and have you move down, so if you'll stay in that chair, I'm sure Dr. Miller will understand. Take the second chair. Dr. Miller is Jonathan Miller.
You don't mean I can't move, do you?
No, listen, with a little help, we'll get you down there. You met him backstage, I guess, for the
Yes,
first
I did,
time.
yes.
But if anyone saw Beyond the Fringe, you remember Dr. Miller as brilliantly funny in that. I say Dr. Miller because he's in fact a doctor. He isn't anymore, but he was actually a neurologist, I believe, and he is directing the Oxford-Cambridge Shakespeare Company here right now in Twelfth Night. And he's waiting backstage wondering if I'm ever going to stammer through this introduction and get him out here. Will you please welcome Dr. Jonathan Miller? Welcome to our little club here.
Oh, yes, everyone always does that. As soon as someone says that one's a doctor, everyone points to their belly or their back and
Gives you
says,
a
see,
symptom.
doctor, I have this, then give them the symptom. That's right.
I said neurologist. I meant pathologist, didn't I? Or
No,
did I
in
mean
fact,
neurologist?
I was training as a neurologist, although
were?
I did pathology for a while. I spent about a year cutting up bodies, and that was where I learned to smoke, in fact, because of the smell of dead bodies. And it was,
Pat seems to like that.
That's my kind of guy.
I come on straight there, you see. And that was the way it started, and that's the way it'll end, I'm afraid.
Have you kept your hand in...
In dead bodies?
In dead
No.
bodies.
Not willingly, anyway. No, I haven't. My wife practices medicine, so I hear it, as it were, second-hand, or straight from the horse's mouth, as you wish. And I suppose I hear bits and pieces from her there. But in fact, I don't practice medicine at all. I regret that. I'd quite like to get back into it in some ways. It's really quite
What
nice.
part of you isn't satisfied by not being in medicine?
Well, I enjoyed the skill. I enjoyed exercising the skill of medicine. I enjoyed being able to diagnose various conditions. I suppose that I enjoyed treating patients, although in fact, to be honest, that wasn't really the reason why I first went into it. It's not because I don't love humanity, but because I'm much more interested in how they work, really, than how I can cure them. And I think that there's always a fair proportion of doctors who go into the subject because they're fascinated by the machinery. And the best way of finding out how the machinery works is to get your hands on those people in which the machinery has gone wrong. So, in fact, there's a sort of curiosity which burns in a lot of doctors. They just are fascinated to see how the whole thing fits together and how it can fall apart.
I always wonder how it's possible to be a doctor and not be neurotic about your own health.
It's very rare, in fact. I think that once one's made the decision to go into medicine, you're already the sort of person who probably is not too worried about your own body. Your curiosity is external, and you're interested in other people's bodies. In fact, not...
Now you're a director and interested in people's bodies in quite another way.
Well, you know, it's very similar, in fact, being a director. Being a director and a doctor, I thought...
They are the same?
In fact, they are the same. They're
Yes.
the same sort of activity, really.
Well, these days
Director is a doctor.
Well, it's...
Absolutely.
And both of them see people naked these days.
Well, no, but it's
No,
actually...
we don't have to go that far.
I'm
with
sorry.
it.
But it's closer than that, you see, Dick. I think that it's to do with the fact that they're almost the same procedure in reverse, really. They're mirror images of each other. In the case of a doctor, he confronts someone whose motives and whose difficulties are unknown at the start of the interview. And he has to watch and to infer from the way in which the patient behaves exactly what's wrong inside. Now, when you're directing a play, you start by knowing the motives, by knowing what the motives of the character are, because the author's told you. And you have to reconstruct those motives in such a way that the audience is in a position to infer what it's all about. So, in fact, you're just simply winding the tape backwards.
You also, though, have the pathology of the actor himself, who has his own symptoms.
Well, I think this is much more evident in this country than it is in England.
Our actors are sicker?
Well, no, it's not that you're sicker in this country. I think it's much more important. It's more recently, this is since the war. There's much more emphasis on psychoanalysis in this country. There's much more emphasis on the internal state of the actor than there is on the external state of the part that he has to play. In this country, you get a feeling that the actor uses the part to express himself, whereas in England, the actor uses himself to express the part. Now, I'm not saying this is the case with all American actors, or actresses indeed.
This would be an
but I do
unfortunate
think-
time to say that.
Indeed. But it is it's a very significant difference between American actors since the war in this country, largely as a result of things like the method and of Stanislavski techniques, and also of the influence of psychoanalysis.
Don't you find the method creeping into England a bit distressingly? Last time this year, I was there this year. And I see signs of it, which is distressing me.
Well, yes, it distresses me too whenever I see it.
Don't you think it's happening a bit?
Well, I think it happens with certain actors. I think a very large number of English actors resist it, and I think the majority of them do.
The majority do, I think.
I think that it'll never really catch on in England because English actors are interested in acting as play. They're not interested in it as therapy. They're not out to cure themselves as a result of the part that they play. And the result is that they enjoy being external. They enjoy putting on wigs, putting on masks, putting on warts, putting on hunchbacks. I mean, Laurence Olivier is a perfect example of the actor who disguises himself and uses himself as an instrument to express the part.
He's almost always afflicted or disguised or something.
Well, this is why he's fascinated by all this
Oh,
sort
well,
of thing.
that's when it's fun. That's when it's the most fun.
Well, that's when it's play. And after all, the
That's when
name
it's
of what we
play.
do on the stage
That's right.
it's called the play.
This is right. This is right.
And this is what it's all about.